Hello everyone. In prior recordings I talked about having Micro Center build your PC, motherboards, solid state drives, their configurations, and so much more. Now I want to cover the next most important topic when it comes to building your computer, the case. Just like motherboards, I do not see a need to buy the most expensive case. I do, however, recognize that there are certain features or looks people want. If that happens to be the thing, then it's their money, they can do what they want. It's just, in my personal opinion, I just don't see a need to go that far. Let's go ahead and look at some of the cases that I put into PC part lists over the last year, starting with cube cases. Cube cases aren't that common. I think that is due to people wanting their normal tower cases. I encourage people to take a look at cube cases though, as they are most of the time more compact and have really as many features as you possibly need for a normal PC build. There is two cube cases that I recommend, and we'll start with the Thermaltake Core V21. Thermaltake Core V21 is a micro ATX cube case that costs $60. That's right, this only costs $60. You get a lot of features for $60. It's modular, as we can see with this picture down here. This particular case can stack on top of another case of the same model. So you can actually put multiples of these together should you need a custom cooling system or some other thing. Airflow is actually pretty good as well. You can see that in this particular picture they showed off the many different ways that you can mount a fan or liquid cooling system. So yeah, there's a lot here that you can get for $60. There's a review for it here, I'll link it in the description. Moving on to the only other cube case that I work with, the Corsair Carbide Air 540. This is a larger cube case, and it does work with ATX motherboards. Unfortunately, it does cost between $110 to $130, depending where you buy it. This is going to be the most expensive case out of the ones that I've been working with. The cost is justified for a few reasons. First being that it's in compartments. It's kind of hard to see from this picture, but behind this black and red wire is a motherboard. This is the power supply unit in the bottom corner. As you can see, the power supply unit happens to be on the other side of the motherboard wall in its own compartment. In addition, the power supply unit mounts on its side, not flat. That's because this case has a ventilation hole for the power supply unit on this particular side. So the power supply unit isn't going to be fighting with the other parts for ventilation or cooling. It's on its own side of the case, which is really great. Second great feature that justifies the cost is the ventilation of this case. The ventilation is very good for this size case, as you'll notice with this review that I'm going to link in the description. But real quickly, I'm going to point out that when they did their temperature tests, look where the Corsair Air 540 ended up. It ended up being the second to lowest temperature on this particular thing. That's how good this is at cooling. Okay, that's the cube cases. Let's go ahead and talk about your normal tower cases. This is the Corsair Carbide 200R. This is a mid ATX case that's very compact. It's kind of the equivalent of the NZXT S340 or whatever it is. I do not like the NZXT S340 as it's a struggle bus to mount certain liquid cooling systems on it. This was very visible in the NZXT stream that happened a while back on Twitch. They were building a case for Renee back then. It took a few tries to get a liquid cooling system into the case. So I avoid the NZXT case for that reason. This is a $60 case, so you do get quite a bit of stuff for that $60. Unfortunately, it does not have a side viewing panel like the two cube cases that I just showed. Instead, it has two fan mounts here on the side. This is a feature I don't see very often in cases. The side-mounted fans help with video card cooling, assuming that they can fit with the video card. So that's actually kind of nice to have, if you don't mind not seeing into the case. Let's go ahead and move on to the next tower case that I work with. It would be the Cooler Master Masterbox Lite 5 RGB. I know how much people love their tempered glass and RGB and all the other stuff, so this is a case that I try to work with when it comes to that topic. This particular case mounts ATX just like the 200R and the 540. In addition to that, it has a pretty good clearance for the video card, CPU cooler, and a few other things. One feature, though, that is unique to this case from what I've seen is this 1-to-3 splitter cable for the RGB LED fans. Now, it does say right here, certified compatible with Asus, Gigabyte, and MSI motherboards. That's a feature that those companies have been working on, as we'll see here with the X470 Aorus Ultra Gaming. This is one of the best entry-level motherboards for AMD Ryzens. On this particular page, you can see that it does have an RGB fusion with digital LED support. You can see that they have specific connections for it here. That's where the connections would go for either that or an RGB strip. That's something you can control via that. So that's a feature that this case tries to work with. Other than that, really it's just a matter of clearance. These tower cases will, in some aspects, have better clearance than the other ones. That's actually something I'll go ahead and cover before I hit end recording. You'll notice on the specification page for any of these cases that you'll see this clearance section. It'll tell you the CPU cooler height it can handle, the power supply length, and the graphics card length it can handle. The cube cases are going to have a much different system for that. In terms of that, they'll be longer on one measurement or shorter on another one. Whereas the tower cases tend to be a little bit more well-rounded. They can accept pretty large power supplies, CPU coolers, and even graphic cards. So do pay attention to that when you're looking at all of this. Alright, I think that I've covered enough. If I didn't, feel free to ask questions. Thanks for listening.